be my shoulder line. The next line you're going to draw is your armhole line. How to get your armhole line is you put a measuring tape on your body, on your shoulder line at your neck, and take it down to your above bust. That's how you get your armhole line. So this is going to be 8 inches. Next line is going to be my waistline. How you get that? From your armhole line, which is your above bust, you're going to go down to your waistline. Whatever you get, you're going to draw that. And I got 8 inches. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. The next measurement is going to be the hip line. So you measure from your waist all the way down to your hip. Whatever you get, you mark that. The standard hip line is about 8 inches. So it depends on how tall you are. Your hip depth from your waist to your hip can go from 7 to 12. Like I said, it depends on how tall you are. Hip line. And the next thing I'm going to do is draw my center front line. Center front. The next line I'm going to draw is my bust line. To get your bust line, just measure above bust to nipple. That's going to be 2 inches. So the next line I'm going to draw is going to be my dart line. I get my dart line by taking my nipple to nipple measurement and dividing that in 2. So if your nipple to nipple measurement is 8 inches, divide that in 2, is 4. And then you're going to put that on the hip line, the waistline, and the bust line. So 4, 4, 4, 4, 4. Mark half an inch on each side of your dart. And then from my hip line, I'll go up by 1 inch. And I'm going to draw my dart. So right here is my bust point. Bust point. The bust point is on the bust line. The next measurement I'm going to take is going to be my horizontal measurement. So on your hip line, measure around your hip and divide that in 4. And then mark whatever you get. For your waistline, measure around your waist and then divide that in 4. Whatever you get, add 1 to it because you already took out 1 in the dart intake. So whatever you get, when you divide your waist in 4 plus 1 inch, you make it 8.5. For the armhole line, you're going to measure around your bust, not your above bust, but your actual bust. Whatever you get, you're going to add half to that. And then you're going to connect that from the armhole to the waistline to the hip line. On the shoulder line, I will measure out 8 inches and I'll do the same thing on my armhole line. So 8 inches is going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And connect that line. An easy way to know how much to take off on this line is by going to this line, measure it, and make sure that this is 1.5 inches more than whatever you get up here. So always make sure that this is 1.5 inches more than whatever you get on your shoulder line. So even if you don't know how much to take out up here, just come in here from this point, measure towards your center front, 1.5 inches, and then mark that. And then whatever you get when from center front to the point that you marked is what you're going to put up here. So for my neckline, I'm going to go down by 2 inches and out by 3 inches. So that's going to be 2 and 3. And then I'm just going to draw a neck curve. Then on this line right here, I will go down by 1 inch and then connect that to my neckline. And then I'll measure this. Whatever is left, I will divide in 2. 7 inches divided by 2 will be 3.5 inches. And on that mark, I will go in by 1/2 inch. Then I'll draw my armhole curve from this point, touching, go in by 1/2 inch. So from this point, touching that 1/2 inch mark and then all the way to this point. So measure your new shoulder line and divide that in 2. So this is 5 inches divided by 2 is 2.5 inches. And then I'll draw that to my bust point. That way, my torso pattern has 2 darts in case I want to do any type of manipulation. I have my shoulder dart and I have my side dart. The back is a lot easier than the front because all you have to do is transfer whatever you have to this side. So I'm going to start by measuring what I have here. So what I have here is 10 3/4. So once I transfer my hip to my back, I'm going to draw my center back. So I will label my center back. And then I will measure my waist, and whatever I get, I'm going to transfer to the back. So this is 8.5 inches. Transfer 8.5 inches to this. The armhole is 9.5 inches. So I'm going to transfer that to my back as well. And I'm going to draw a connecting line. On my center back, I'm going to do the same thing that I did here, which is going by 4 inches on the bust line, the waistline, and the hip line. I'm going to connect that line. On the waistline, I'll go up by 1/2 inch on each side, and then I'll go down by 5 inches on the back. And then I'll connect that. On the neckline, I'm going to do the same thing that I did in front. I'll go in by 3 inches and down by 2 inches. You can increase this if you want. It depends on the style you want. I'll measure 8 inches like I did in front. 8 inches and 8 inches. And draw a line right here. For this one, I'm not going down by 1 inch like I did in front. I'll go down by 1/2 inch. After going down by 1/2 inch in front, I'll connect it to this line right here. And then I'll measure what is left on this line. Find half of what is left, which is 7.5 inches. 7.5 inches divided by 2, 3 3/4. Then I'll come in by 1/4 inch. So this is the armhole. Last thing I'm going to do is get my bust radius. How do you get your bust radius? You take your measuring tape and you put it on your nipple, and then you measure all the way to the crease at the bottom of your bust. You know that crease at the bottom of the bust? Yeah, that's exactly where it's supposed to stop. So they call it the under bust. So you take your measuring tape and you put it on your nipple and you measure all the way to your under bust. That's how you get your bust radius. And mine is 3 inches. So I'm gonna get 3 inches here and all the way around right here. And I'm gonna put the sharp point on my bust point and then put the pencil on the 3-inch mark. And then I'm just gonna draw a circle. So to make it visible, I'm gonna go in with my marker, and that's the bust radius. This is the easiest torso pattern without having to go through all the calculations and whatnot. This is literally 30 minutes or less. Okay, if you want to make a top from this, you can make a top from this. If you want to make a dress from this, you can make a dress from this. If you want to make a skirt from this, you can make a skirt from this. So it's like a 3-in-1 pattern for beginners. So on the center front, on this bust line right here, go down by 3/8 of an inch and go up by 3/8 of an inch. And then draw the line to the bust point. I'm going to draw my new neckline from this to the first red line. Then from this side line right here, I'll go down by 1 inch. 1 inch. Then I'll connect the second red line to this 1 inch right here. And I'll make sure to touch on the circle. Now this is what it looks like. Find your mid neckline and then draw it to your bust line. On the blue line, take out 1/4 inch towards the center front. And then connect that line to the bust point. And I'll measure whatever I have here and transfer it to my back line. This is 3 inches all the way to the center back. On this line right here, I'll go in towards my new neckline by 1/2 inch and connect that new armhole line to my already existing armhole line. I want it to be a long gown, so I will extend the length of my skirt. Then I'm gonna cut out my pieces. Right here on my new neckline, I'll go down by 1/4 of an inch and I'll connect it to this point right here. On this armhole right here, I'll take out 1/2 inch like I did in the front, this right here. I'm gonna draw a new armhole line. And then I'm gonna draw a new back line all the way to this point right here. Okay. The next thing I'm going to do is measure 3/8 of an inch from this dart leg and then that dart leg. 1/8 of an inch is 3 toothpicks. 1, 2, 3, and 1, 2, 3. And I'm going to connect that to my bust point. Go down by 1/4 of an inch and then connect that to the armhole. Okay, so I'll open this up, open this, and open this, and I'll close this and leave this one open. Okay, and then I'm gonna draw a new neckline. This is what the new front looks like. The last changes I made was I went down by 3/4 of an inch on the front and on the back on my armhole, and then I cut it out. So this is what the piece looks like. I thought the camera was rolling, but it wasn't rolling. This is what it looks like. This is the front and this is the back, and they both have 2 pieces. I want the dress to be an ankle length dress, but I don't want to waste my paper. So what I'm going to do is when I'm cutting it out on my fabric, I'm just going to extend it by 2 inches on the hem and then connect it to the hip line, and by 2 inches on the hem and connect it to the hip line, because I want it to be a flared dress. After drafting my pattern, I got one of my scrap fabrics and I cut out this design just to see if there was anything that I needed to fix on it. First thing was this armhole was gaping, so that means I have to take out 1/2 inch on it. So measure your armhole, find the midpoint, draw to your bust point. From that line, measure 1/2 inch down towards your side seam and then draw that line to the bust point. Now I'm going to be able to get rid of this so that this can open up more. So that was the first thing that I fixed on this. The second thing that I fixed was I realized that this right here was a little droopy. This right here is a little droopy. I don't want it to be too low. I want it to cup my bust. So that means I have to take out 1 inch from here so that it can really cup my bust the way that I want it to. So on my pattern, I measured 1 inch from each side of the dart upwards, and then I drew it to the center front and I drew it to the side seam. On my new under bust line, I measured 1 inch outwards like this, and then I marked it. So what I'm going to do now is connect that to my bust point, get rid of this right here, open this and close it. This is what it looks like. So this is what it looks like after cutting it out on the fabric. So for the front and back top, I cut out 2 sets, one for the shell fabric and one for the lining. But for the bottom, front and back, I only cut out 1 set. So this is going to be just 1 piece. I'm not going to line it with anything. And this is going to be 2 pieces at the top. I will be lining the top with the same fabric. The hip line, the front and the back, I drew a line all the way down to the hemline, and I extended the hemline by about 1 inch. Actually 1.5 inch at the front and 1.5 inch at the back. From that 1.5 inch, I marked all the way to the hip line because I wanted to flare out at the bottom. For the top, I cut out 2 pieces. This is going to be the shell fabric and this one is going to be the lining. I'm going to stitch it right here. I'm setting my stitch length to 3. Next thing I'm going to do is top stitch it. After stitching my front pieces, I'll do the same thing on the back. Stitch it on the neckline with a 1/2 inch sewing allowance. This is my front piece and this is my back piece. And this is the wrong side of the lining and this is also the lining. Next thing I'm going to do is open it like this and then open it like this. And I'm going to make sure that my lining side on my back is also touching my lining side on my front. And I'm going to stitch it on the shoulder like this with a 1/2 inch sewing allowance. And then I'm going to turn it like this so that the armhole and the side seams are touching. The armhole and the side. Then I'm going to turn it out from my underbust. This is what it looks like. I'm going to turn it back out and then I'm going to trim my excess seam. Then I'll iron it and I'll do the same thing on the other side. Now I'm going to join it at the underbust. Join it like this. Underbust. Because I'm not putting a zipper on this dress, I'm going to join the side seams very loosely. So the first thing I'm going to do is join my side seams using a 1 inch sewing allowance. That way it's not loose around the armhole or the bust. So this is going to be a 1 inch and then I'm going to just narrow it down to 3/4 of an inch, and then at the waist I'm going to make it like 2 inches, and then I'm going to go out again by 3/4 of an inch, and then I'm going to take it down using 1/2 an inch all the way to the hem of the dress. So that's what I'm going to do now. I joined it at the bust and I also did the same thing at the back of the dress. I joined it right here. So when I'm done, I'm going to stitch it down using a 1/2 inch sewing allowance at the back as well. But if it's too tight, then I'll put a zipper in and then I'm going to finish up the edges using my overlocker, and that'll be the end of the dress. This is what the dress looks like. I hemmed the bottom with a 1 inch sewing allowance. I folded it first with a 1/4 of an inch and then I folded it again to 1 inch, and then I hemmed the bottom of the dress, and this is what it looks like. I think it's a cute dress. I finished the edges using my overlocking machine at the zipper and at the sides. Did that at the underbust and on the back as well.